I want to generate time, because time is freedom for me. And, New Year's is just it's just a calendar going on another day, right? But why is it that we use that time and opportunity to reflect? Give myself permission to be happy on the journey, right? 8 hours of work, 8 hours of recreation, 8 hours of rest.
Welcome to Mindful Driven Podcast, all about how to chase your dreams whilst not losing sight of what's really important along the way. Today's guest is Karaminder Ghuman, who's a polymath by trade. He's a headshot photographer, a course builder, a community leader, a writer, a storyteller, a filmmaker, amongst many other things. So how I know Karaminder is through the course side. And I've seen how much he's obsessed with making sure that the community is as good as possible, and how important that human connection is at wherever you go. This is a really interesting discussion, and it goes in lots of different directions. I really hope you enjoy. Let's get to the show. Welcome, Karaminder. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Amadee.
I know you've taken a lot of courses in the past, and you really love having communities. But along that way, you'd have heard so many different pieces of advice from different experts from all over the world. What's something you hear often that you now disagree with and you think that it takes people down the wrong path?
There's definitely a lot of kind of advice given for you just got to do this, right? And you're like, why can't I do that? That's the thing that I'm told to do and I can't do it. And then, the truth is very trite, right? And oftentimes you can give someone the answer, but it doesn't land. But when you put that truth inside of a story, inside of a lesson, then the person who's listening to the story gets to be in the story, gets to become the story, right? And then that way it becomes internalized. This is the way I understand how all of our, say, ancestors and how stories were passed along, and we remember stories, whereas, again, the truth is trite. So that's kind of how I see things, is how, this is the truth, but the method of how to, say, execute or how to become whatever that truth is requires a story, requires journey, requires a process. And I'm trying to think of something specific. I mean, it could be as simple as, as writing every day, right? And that seems very simple. You should just be able to write every day. Just keep it up, keep doing. Yeah, I don't. I write when I need to. It's almost like a just-in-time learning, that kind of process of I need to learn this, so I'll learn it now, right? And oftentimes I think about intrinsic motivation. You can see how much rabbit holing and side quests we're going, but this is important. The intrinsic motivation is one of those core, core values, core truths, if you will. Because without an intrinsic motivation to do something or to learn something, you will not. And oftentimes it's that, and that's where the just-in-time learning or just-in-time doing comes into play, and it's so helpful to understand and respect that. But then you also kind of have to build your life around that, where you allow yourself those pockets, that time to be able to skill up in those regards. Probably not specific to do I have specific advice or something that I can think of besides say writing every day? Because a lot of that is, I look at, just writing every day. Okay, well, how do I actually get there? Okay, I've got to look at how I design my day. What time of the day am I most productive? This is the story that I needed to know and go through in order to get to a point of being able to, say, write every day. And even then, I still don't write every day, but at least I've created the environment and the tools and the support around me, my systems around me, to be able to support that. And I didn't have that before, but when someone just says write every day, that's an example of something maybe I disagree with that, but this is why. But I see what you're saying, but we need to share the story.
And unpacking that a bit, I think when you say you disagree with different advice, it's about how when people try to make something too simple, because, for example, how do you get fit? You eat less and you exercise more. Yeah, that's correct, but it's not very useful, is it?
Well, what happens if you have a thyroid problem, as I do, and then I barely eat?
You see these truisms and people post them online, all that kind of thing about, you just have to do this. And often those accounts can be very popular saying that kind of advice because it's that confirmation bias. or people are already doing that or think they're already doing that, will then share it and be like, oh, this is so profound. But in that tweet, it's very difficult to actually get the nuance behind it. So writing every day, for example, I disagree completely. And I say a successful writer, but I've been able to build a career based on my writing. I don't write every day for myself because I write when I'm inspired. I work in a way that works for me. But if you say the answer is simple, if you want to become successful, you just need to write every day. People often want to follow that because it's an easy solution to a complex world. And if you had that kind of experience in the past where somebody's told you some simple advice that hasn't worked for you and it's taken you like a long time to realize that actually you need to do things differently for yourself.
I think back to a time where I met a fellow course creator, and he had a course he calls it 3-day weekend, right? Like 3-day weekend, like this is for people who are working a regular job and they find they don't have enough time, that they want to be able to have 3-day weekends. The idea being that, yeah, you work 4 days, and who's had a bad 3-day weekend? Not many people, but the idea is that 3-day weekends are good and fun. And so when he told me that, I'm like, that's so logical. That makes so much sense. And I was able to very quickly make sure that no one could book me as far as, say, one-to-ones or even for my photography appointments on Fridays, just so that way I could have 3-day weekends. And now if I want to take a job because they want me to work on Friday, that's my choice. I get to do that. But at least by default, my people get to the automated calendar kind of approach. No one gets to take that time away from me. And what I found is, yeah, I get more time because my wife has Fridays off. I get more time with her. I also get more time to just kind of be a bit more quiet and build, because oftentimes, like you mentioned, when we are consuming, say even on Twitter, and we're like inspired, like, yeah, that's what I think as well, right? It's great. But what about when we need to express, when we need to write, when we need to put something out there, when we need to build, right? And I like that for Fridays. And I went back to him. He's like, yeah, some people I tell this idea to, and they're able to just, they don't need me. They're off and running. And his name is Wade Galt, by the way. We should give shout outs to him. And he said that what he's found is those people who take off and running with the idea that they don't need his course is because those people understand their values. And absolutely, my values are that I treasure relationships between my friends, my family. It's the time that we spend together. I treasure, I value that, because I want to have, with the businesses I have, I want to generate time, because time is freedom for me. Right? A lot of people feel financial freedom is freedom. And that is free as well. But for me, it's being able to be present with the people I care about, I love, and spend time. That's for me what life is.
Was there a time in the past where you were really off balance? Because was the 4-day weekend switch, was that because you were unhappy, or was it because you just thought it would improve your life that was already doing pretty well? Like, was there a time where you kind of had a breaking point in the past?
Oh, several. Oh my God. Like, I feel like, what do I say? I don't know if I've got this from anyone or just came up with myself. I don't remember, but mistakes are our best teachers. Failures are our best professors. But absolutely, the failures really kind of teach you so much and kind of mold you. The way I kind of view life is that we all start out as marble slabs, if you will, and good things that happen to us kind of get a little chip away from, with a hammer and a chisel, just a little chip away. But the negative things that happen to us, the things that really kind of shape us, they are big swings of that hammer with that chisel. They are big swings, and especially failures. Failures, almost like you do that one whack and like a big chunk of stone comes right off, right? And what's left behind is us, is our character, is who we are. That's how we learn who we are. We don't know who we are until we go through life and experience things and kind of see what we're made of. And it makes sense when we use these words, see what we're made of, right? And then we're being chiseled out of marble here. So we can kind of see the shape that's being left behind. And so many of these. So let's say, for example, I specifically think of, I started a online wine business selling wine on the internet at the age of 21. And my dad had a wine shop. That was where the inventory was from. And no, didn't spend any money on ads or even on staff, it was just me and my dad. And that for a few years in 2 years, I think it was starting to do more business than our retail sales. So it was already taking off. And then we sold all of that and then moved the family to a different, nicer location. And then I'm like, all right, I did it once, I can do it again. So we built up a new space, a new shop and everything. But, bigger, much more of an endeavor, much more of like, this is my vision of how, say, a wine shop and selling online should be. And then the economy tanked in 2008 and took it all with it, because it was only open it opened in July of 08 and the economy tanked in October of 08. So barely any time to grow. And I always was working so hard because I knew that I just need to get to a, profitable evenness to support my family, for everyone, before I can like let myself be happy, let myself enjoy things. Like it's hard work, and this is going to set us up, us being a family, set us up for our futures. And then when it failed, I was very down, very depressed. I had left school with 2 semesters left from graduating just to pursue this because I had a fire for it. And that lesson was that there is no happiness, say, at the end of the rainbow or the end of the journey. The happiness actually is now. It's to give yourself permission, because we're always going to be on journeys. We're always going to be in a journey. We're always going to be transforming. That's just who we are. That's our nature. But there's nothing to say that you can't be happy now. And I know some of you may trade speed, right? For like, well, if I just sacrifice this now, I can get there 2 months quicker, or whatever you want to say, whatever time frame. The biggest lesson I learned there was give myself permission to be happy on the journey, right? Just give myself permission. And in that way you can be happy like along it, because the sweetest part is almost the chase, if you will, the journey. The final destination isn't actually as rewarding as you think. You accomplish it, yeah, great. You can celebrate your wins, very important, even the small ones. That is important. But then the next day you're right back at it, right? And other things I've learned from this is that whenever a goal is tied to a number, just 1 million Twitter followers or 1 million YouTube subscribers, and I put $1 million in the bank account. Whenever it's tied to a number, or the stock or Bitcoin hits 1 million something, I'm always using the word million. But what happens when it does reach it? Does your life change? Doesn't, right? But the motivation that you had to achieve that, like you're just focusing on this number. This number's increasing. This number's changing. I just had a birthday. I turned 41. How different is that from 40? Not much, really. Just, from 40 years old with 364 days under my belt. Did that really just suddenly change once I reached 41? No, it's very much the same. 41 looks very much the same as the late 40s, if you will, late 40. So tying happiness or tying a goal to a number is never a really great thing. It's more so because that's when people chase money, and they get money, but there's no happiness. Whereas if you chase something a little bit more, say, ambiguous, where I want my house, I want the house for my family taken care of, paid for, right? Yeah, there's a number to that. But it's usually much more than that, because, okay, great, mortgage is taken care of, but then what else? What about, we've got the little changes we need to make in the house, little fixes here and little repairs. What can we do to make, well, we need to add more solar, have a battery backup for the whole house. It's little things like that, but at least the goal there is taking care of the family. It's not reach X amount of numbers in the bank to fulfill and pay down all the debts, all that, right? Same thing, that's how I see with charity work as well, that if you care more about that we're doing this for a social good, social good outcome, if you will, like charity work, that keeps you going much more than trying to hit some sort of number threshold, right? So that's one lesson there. Right, the old African proverb, right? There's if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go further, go together, right? And alongside another phrase, which is, in order to go fast, you have to go slow, right? And a lot of that is just looking after yourself, because you are human at the end of the day. You're not a robot. And you can't treat yourself like a robot, because you're still skin and bones. And you still need to look after yourself. And that was one of the biggest challenges I've always had, which was, I remember when I met my wife, it was like, my biggest challenge is learning how to chill at the end of the day. Meaning, because I just keep working, but I'm like, why can't I just break away and do this? And at the time, I was also piecing together a little home cinema, right? And it was a room we had in the house that all we did was we watch films in it, but it was set up like a living room where nobody would visit, and we'd use it as a living room because we already had downstairs living room. So this is an upstairs place. So instead, I'm like, well, since it's the only thing we do here is watch movies, why don't we just focus this room on watching movies? That's the point. Got rid of the coffee table, put in like 2 rows of seats, just really rejiggered the couches, if you will, just to mock it up to see like, does this work? And set things like TV in the center of this room, so that's the focal point. Put speakers around so we can actually have surround sound, because before the TV was in the corner, and a TV in the corner is never really ideal for like, how many cinemas do you go to where the cinema screen's in the corner of the room? It doesn't work, right? It doesn't work that way. But the thing I learned is that because I made it an event, I made chilling out an event. That helped me so much more, because I can stop, I can relax, I can let go. And by having recreation time, not that I just sit there all the time. Exercise is important too, guys. Come on. But it really does help unwind. And I always remember this phrase from Logic. He says, in order to rock the internet, you got to get off the internet.
Just unpacking some of the stuff you said there, where I feel, for example, the goal setting is, I've gone back and forth with this with myself about, is it good to set goals? Is it bad to set goals? Is it actually helping me? Is it not helping me? And I think what I found is that reaching the goal isn't really the point. So, for example, when I was younger, I wanted to become a black belt. Becoming a black belt didn't actually matter. What mattered is the journey I had to take to get there. And that's what I think with the different goals I set now. For example, I want to make $1 million in a year. Not because I need that money, not because that money matters to me, but the different skills I have to learn and the different ways I have to adapt in order to make that money. That's an interesting challenge for me. That's something I want to learn how to do. So for me, it's driving that curiosity is, if you set a target for yourself, and this obviously comes at different points, right? If you've got the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where once you've got to a certain stage where you're relatively comfortable, then you can start looking at, well, how do I make myself satisfied? What do I enjoy the most? And I enjoy the most of taking on different challenges. And for example, what you mentioned there about like making $1 million, it's not that the money is what matters. It's not that it's going to make you happy. And that's why you do need to set a different target afterwards. But you need to go into that knowing that you're not chasing that target because it's going to make you happy. You're chasing it because you love the chase. And then when you set yourself a new target, it's less upsetting because it's now you've got a new opportunity to do something else which you love, to have that challenge again. And that's an exciting thing. So it's all about the way you perceive that and whether or not you can take the positives in that or not. Whereas if you think, this is it, this is going to make me happy, you're probably going to be disappointed. Hi everyone, I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I want to take a quick break to ask you to check in on yourself. There's many people struggling with balance, and there's nothing to be ashamed about. The tips that my guests and I share can hopefully help you along the way, but if you already feel overwhelmed or burnt out, it's probably best that you ask somebody for help too. For some, this might be a friend or family member, but others might feel like they have nobody they can talk to. If you're one of these people, check out the link in the show notes. It's for United for Global Mental Health. They've got helplines all across the world with people willing to listen on the other side. It's important to let somebody know how you're feeling. Now, back to the show. With where you are today, do you feel like you have the balance right? Or are you putting too much pressure on yourself still? Or swinging the other way?
I would say now with the level of experience I've had of say ups and downs, I feel much, much better about my balance. Where, riding that edge, that knife edge, if you will, of burnout, where you just kind of keep going. You're like, so I'm closer. I just got to get it. Just got to do this. Got to do that. Just got to do this. And you keep doing that. You don't look after yourself. And then you crash. It also doesn't feel great. And now it's lovely. I get to spend time with my dog. I get to spend time with my wife, my family. I get to go outside. I get to ride my bike, right? These are little things, but enjoying, we're human beings, and we haven't found another planet with human beings so far that we're aware of or we're told. Okay, it's another thing there. But yes, we the miracle of life that we are on this planet, enjoying nature, enjoying the sunshine, enjoying the sea, enjoying the sweet things, if you will, because that's kind of what keeps me going. Because what is a life full of work? Oh, great. I died while improving optimizations 17.6%. Right now I've died a happy life. No, you haven't. No, you didn't. No, you don't. No one, you can't take it with you when you die either. Right. So what do you leave behind? What is it? I think about these things. And I find a good balance approach. I think this is a talk from Aaron Draplin for Adobe Max, and he found a union pin in his like dad's toolbox, and his little pin said 8 hours of work, 8 hours of recreation, 8 hours of rest. Right. So recreation, I also see that as play, and that is the balance, right? 8, 8, 8. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and you kind of none. Do I get 8 hours sleep? No, get a little bit less. That's all right. Do I work more than 8 hours? Yeah. But do I also spend time away just to have fun, just to kind of refocus to be outside? Yes, absolutely. And I'm hoping it probably feels like 6 to 8 hours. Probably by the time I get to sleep, it probably is 8 hours. But it's a lovely balance because I'm able to be much more present. I'm not worrying, right? I'm also not feeling the effects of overwhelm and the effect of feeling like, oh, don't you always feel like you're always behind? Yeah, but you kind of like make friends with it in a way. Like you're like, it's okay, I'm behind. That's all right. So someone else may get there first, but it's not about being better. It's about being different, and it's about being who you are.
Is there anything new that you've introduced to your life that you found is helping you with this balance? Like any new systems or any new tricks that you could share with the audience?
I remember what I need to talk about before, and I want to answer this. So the new thing that introduced in my life was my puppy. He's just turned a little bit past 2 years. He's just only knows the world of COVID. His name is Mowgli, little Yorkshire Terrier. I swear that little guy has done more for my mental health than any medicine I've ever tried, any therapy, and I go to therapy twice a week, and I've seen so many different ones. But having a puppy, a little guy, is just the best. You see him, and you cannot feel bad or sad. You cannot. He'll scratch on my door, and I'll know, like, okay, he wants me to take a break. I'll take a break. I get down on all fours. I'll get down flat on the floor, and we interact. We play, and it's so rejuvenating. It's so lovely, and he's this little creature of just love. He just loves. He wants everybody around all the time. He's always checking everyone, doing a bit of an inventory. But I love that. That's one. I'll say that one. And then I got back into biking, during COVID, because the last time I went biking was, I was, I think 15 years old. I fell off my bike, the downhill, and I got gnarly scars to show for it. I never rode a bike after that. I don't know why, I just didn't. And then getting back into that lovely feeling of mobile freedom, if you will, is just wonderful. My wife and I had a New Year's holiday in the little island of Catalina, just off of Los Angeles, just off the coast. And we took our little folding bikes, little Bromptons, right? If you guys know what those are, love those things. And we just rode around the whole island. And it was just the best. You see other people renting their golf carts, going here and there. And I'm like, we got to enjoy it much more slowly. And we really, almost also when we got to eat, we felt like we earned it as well. It was very nice, very kind of natural. And you get to stop and talk to a lot of people. That's great. I remember now the advice that we've been given that I disagree with, and it has to do with goals. And I'll be honest, I'm completely shit at goals. But I think I know why. And I also know what works. So instead of goals, I look at it of how can I set up a system that helps me get there. So oftentimes I'm working backwards, but I'm also kind to myself. It's not, say, a deadline that I need to hit this, but it's more so, like you said, what is that journey of what is the mindset one needs to evolve into in order to attain and play at that level. So goals are something that people are like, oh, set goals. And I still see it. And it works for some people, right? It works for a lot of people perhaps. But for me, it doesn't. But I know that it's much better for me building a system. So, you go back to the example of writing every day. Once I had built a writing system, which I only just did recently, last few months, I have a place for my ideas. I have a place that I can quickly see what direction of what I want to write about next, and what is the fire and desire in my heart of different subjects and topics that I do want to write about, and where am I going to publish them, and then seeing how that aligns with my greater goal of where I want to be, where I want to kind of accomplish, and I can kind of see it all together. But once I built that system, it wasn't about writing every day. It was actually a bit more about being strategic in using writing to get me to where I need to go, instead of like, I need to write every day, or I need to write 5,000 word piece and publish it every week. So I'm a huge believer in systems, because if I haven't done something, then I stop myself and think, okay, why haven't I done it? And the answer is always the same. It's because I haven't built a system, or haven't built it into my system. It's so easy to go to 3-day weekends because I kind of had systems set up where I can quickly allow for that. I'm already managing my time with my Calendly, with Acuity scheduling for headshot clients. That very easy to say, yeah, I don't have working hours on Friday. I still list them as I work. So if you call me and you want me, I'll do it. But you cannot auto book me for a Friday.
I'm curious about the 4-day week that you have at the moment. Do you think that's your ideal working week, or in the future do you want to reduce that even further? Do you think it's the right balance? Like, let's say you don't need the money anymore, or you've got to a position where like it's not a financial decision at all. It's just about what's the balance between play and work.
I think that will fluctuate, and I think it will change. And I think there's a number of factors, number of variables that will contribute to the answer of that question. One is, where am I at in my life? And, because ideally I think I actually would work 3 days a week. But then I'm thinking, when I'm away from work for at least maybe 2 or more days, I get a bit antsy. Like I need to create, I need to do something. I need to push. I just want to be, my hands in the stew, if you will, in the ingredients and making things happen. So I know that. So I'm going to look at that of like, where's my personal, how do you say, achievement balance, my personal like ambitious balance of I feel comfortable here. I like working. I like creating things. And then versus like, okay, I'm on holiday, so now I'm going to take a big break. And then I wonder, like, I get to a point where I hope to get to a point where I have great staff, a great team behind me, and that I only have to maybe speak to them. I mean, the luxurious one is once a week. What's going on? What's happening? What's the overview? And anything I need to be made aware of, quickly do that, and maybe see them, speak with them for, I would hope not just an hour, maybe a couple hours or maybe half a day. And not only that, but to inspire them. And what am I doing with my time away from that? Then that means, just like that quote I said before, which is, in order to rock the internet, get off the internet. So whether I'm reading books, whether I'm enjoying new experiences, but I'm taking those, I'm collecting those, I'm bringing it back, and then expressing that in whatever way, shape, or form. YouTube video, written piece, tweet thread, even if that is appropriate for that, and able to kind of build upon those things. That's I wouldn't say an ideal, but it would be nice to see if I can get there, so that way I can spend more time exploring. But I know it's always going to be a healthy balance, because I love teaching. I love being able to share my wisdom, my advice. And so I kind of see it in a bit more like seasons, Amadip, right? Like, like in the wintry seasons when things are cold, we often have actually events where we get together, right? We have Christmas. In America, we have Thanksgiving. And I love these as like little anchor events of one's year that we can kind of hang our hat on. And these events often rejuvenate us. At least it does for me. I love spending time with my family when it's colder outside, right? And it's Christmas, and we get to watch movies, play games, eat, right? And then the end of year reflection. What did we get done this year? What did we like? What do we want to do next year? It's all nice that happens around that time. New Year's is just a calendar going on another day, right? But why is it that we use that time and opportunity to reflect and then to plan forward? So I see things as seasonal, and I don't see why we shouldn't be seasonal either, in terms of our growth and in terms of how we choose to spend our time. So I've written it down somewhere, but something like where spring is like a realignment. Like, all right, let's get back into the groove. Let's get back into the game. All right, what is it that what is the direction we want to go in? And what is the realignment there? And I'm kind of very like a diverging, very open to new ideas, new concepts. And then say in the summer, then it begins to like, all right, let's execute. And it becomes more like, let's execute and build, and then also lift off and take a break, because it's summertime. Let's enjoy outside, right? And fall is a bit more like, all right, let's get back into the swing of things. Let's keep building, have a nice good push towards the end of the year. And then end of year is a bit like summertime, where I'm going to leave off the throttle and enjoy time with family and kind of reflect as well. So you see what I mean by seasons. I plan my community of course creators to this as well. So each dashboard I have is quarterly. and with a different focus, because as much as I'm trying to be aligned with as much of our human seasonality. I mean, Northern Hemisphere. I know Southern Hemisphere. Sorry, but that's kind of where I'm based, and that's where I kind of align things up that way.
I'm just thinking about this in terms of the way you mentioned how the season worked for you. And it's something I'm coming to terms with myself at the moment is that we've had nice weather here recently, which I know is very surprising for London. But now that I work for myself, I find when it's nice outside, I don't really want to work. I want to go outside, sit in the sun, I want to socialize. And something I'm thinking about in the future is how do I build my work and everything I do around that? How do I give myself the summer off, essentially? And can I get to that kind of position? And with other podcasts, I know that this is what they do. They take the summer months off. And often it's because they've got kids, for example, so they have the school vacation period. So they align it with that. But that's what I'm doing for this podcast. So there'll be a few more episodes until the end of July. And then there'll be a break for August and September, which I can refresh. And like you said, in order to create good content and to help people, you've also got to be living life. Because why would anyone want to take advice from me or you if all we did all the time was work? You've got to have a life, you've got to have things that have meaning to you outside of work to then be able to help other people to live the lives that are meaningful to them. And if you could give like one message that you really want people listening right now to take hold of and you think they'll make a positive difference to their lives, what would that one message be?
There's so many racing through my head. I'm going to try and choose just one. First thing I think of is just kiss your loved ones. Like, let them know how you feel about them, because we don't often say that, right? I think that's a really important thing. Like, call your mom, and even better, hug your mom. And we don't often express how we feel about each other. Like, I can tell you how I feel. I feel this way. And I can talk to you about how you feel. But once we talk about how we feel about each other, about, say, our relationship, that is a level of depth that it's not an everyday thing, but it is a very sweet, and what's the phrase where people will never remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And this goes along with my values of treasuring relationships, is the level of depth of conversation and intimacy of words we use with each other. Is this the one thing I want you to take away from, is don't be afraid to tell people how you feel about the relationship between you two.
And it's been great to talk to you today. Where can people listening who want to learn more about you and what you're up to, where should they go?
My wife makes fun of me as well. She's like, you can't even keep up with yourself. I'm like, I know, that is so true. Right. So first thing is my Twitter. Right. So my first name is Karaminder. I do own the domain ifyoucanspellmyname.com, which will take you to my webpage where I have my writing. And that's kind of where I'm building my epicenter, if you will, my HQ. So my courses, community, all things related to me is there, and join my newsletter. So I'm really just kind of keeping this focus to Twitter for like the small talk, and newsletters for the communication of like what's happening, what am I doing, how am I living life. But I'm always love hearing new voices. Always love hearing, like, if you enjoyed this, you can just tweet me. Just say what your takeaway was, what little piece of advice or piece of words I used that you enjoyed. I love hearing that, and I treasure that. That would literally make my day. No matter day, whatever day you do that, I would be beaming, and I would be showing it to my wife. I'd be like, look, see, someone else thinks I'm cool.
The final thing I ask all of my guests is, what's one small thing that's brought you joy recently?
One small thing, then it's a bit small, is so I was talking about my bikes earlier, right? Folding bikes. Now, I'm a huge fan of these Brompton folding bikes, right? They came out with a titanium bike, and not just any, because normally the folding bikes, they're a bit heavy. It's like 25 pounds, 12, 14 kilos, something like that. And I know this is an object, right? This is something you pay money for. It's stuff. I get that. But what it kind of represents to me, and what it's really allowed me to feel, is this is the first Brompton, by the way, that I paid for brand new. Everything else I always purchase secondhand. And I always ride it with my dog. So my dog gets in a little basket I attach, and we go on our little adventure. And it is that brings me so much joy and happiness. And I love that it's stupid light. It's almost unfathomably light. And there was only like 500 made this year, 200 in London, 200 to the East, like Singapore, Asia, and 100 came to the US. And I was lucky enough to get one of them. So I feel lucky in that regard. And it's not just some beauty piece. I use it. I write it. I love it. And it's funny, Steve Jobs always said bicycle for the mind, right? The computer is a bicycle for the mind. But you know what? A bicycle it's also for the mind as well. And it helps. It helps me with just thinking clearly and just being outside. It's a wonderful little device that I hope more of us get to have an experience. Just any bike. Not necessarily this one, but just to go outside and be around the people you share this patch of earth with.
If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, I'd love it if you could leave me a 5-star review. It really helps get the message out further. Wherever you're listening, it would be awesome if you could subscribe and to share on your social media channels. If you want to see more of my work and advice, you can find all of the links in the show notes. Thank you again for listening, and I hope you have a lovely day.